Alrighty, let's go. This is not what we want. That's not what we want here. Alright. Um, okay, so we're ready here, ready for our live coverage of the College Football Playoff Top 25, and I'm just trying to find our image we usually have. Our selection show coming up next week. That's not the right one. Should be here in this window for me. Okay, here we go. Yeah, the rankings aren't quite out, but they will be out in the next few minutes. Okay. That looks fine. All right, we're ready for these rankings here. Colorado, 25 in the country after losing to Utah. San Jose State at 24. Tulsa, 23. NC State and Oklahoma State. Iowa remains at 16th in the country. 17th, BYU. Iowa's game was canceled this week. Miami at 18. Louisiana and Texas round out your top 20. All right. In these rankings, I mean, I think Iowa could be higher. But certainly, Iowa was passed up by a team. Iowa ahead of Miami now, but another team jumping Iowa. Let's make sure. North Carolina jumps Iowa and goes to 15. '14th, we got Northwestern. USC at 13. Coastal Carolina up to 12. And Indiana at 11. So the top 10 are coming up in just a moment. We got great teams that we will get to. Alrighty, top 10. We'll start with number 10, the Oklahoma Sooners. They are they're in the top 10 at number 10 in the country. And I hope that you all can hear me here. But Yeah, so Oklahoma in the top 10. All right, thanks for being in the chat. I'll answer any questions y'all have because that's what you get for being in the chat. And Cincinnati moves down yet another spot after their game against Tulsa. Their first game against Tulsa was canceled. They are at 9, but they still have a game against Tulsa remaining. They'll still have that. They'll still have the game this Saturday night, ABC 8 Eastern, against Tulsa, which is now 23rd. Cincinnati moving down a spot, and who jumped them? We'll get to that in just a moment. Certainly Georgia, Iowa State, and we'll get there in a moment. But Oklahoma in the top 10. I don't really know if there's a way for Oklahoma to get into the playoff, but I'm sure you could map out a scenario similar. Georgia moves up a spot over Cincinnati. Georgia beating a Missouri team which last week was in the top 25. I really don't disagreed with that decision to put them in the top 25 last week. And I certainly think that Georgia should not be there. Florida in out of the top 6, so we will have a new top 6 team, and they only fall to 7. They still remain above Georgia. They did beat Georgia in head-to-head. It was in a neutral site at it was at a neutral site in Jacksonville, Florida. We'll get to the top 6 in moments here, but get some analysis on this on the rankings that we've seen so far. I really thought that Florida could be moved down much farther with the loss to LSU. It was a bad loss, and I I know it was a controversial loss. It was a one call that cost them the game, but it's a home game. I know it was bad conditions, but Florida very lucky that they're still. I mean, they're still just 3 spots away from the Final Four, and a win against Alabama certainly could put them into a position where other things could have happened prior in the day to get them into the playoff. But certainly, Bama is the obstacle they have to get through, and that's no easy obstacle for any team, but certainly not when Bama's playing as well as they have. All right, the top 6 we're going to have coming up. We got Iowa State and the other 5. We've got Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, and Texas A&M, as well as Iowa State will be in our top 6. Now, my prediction is we'll have the same as we did last week, except Iowa State will be at 6. I don't see Iowa State being higher than 6 right now. I just don't see Iowa State didn't play this weekend, so I just don't see how they move ahead of Texas A&M. Texas A&M didn't play either, so I mean, if you put Iowa State below Texas A&M last week, they should stay consistent and keep them at number 6. Now, Florida did move down, so that's a different story. So we are ready for our top 6, and I'm getting Bama. I believe they'll reveal the number 1 team in the nation first. I'm getting Bama ready to select, put the Bama image in there because we should be predicting that Bama is the number 1 still. And I don't see any way you can knock them off after just an absolutely dominant performance against Arkansas. Clemson didn't play. Notre Dame didn't play this weekend. Ohio State didn't play either. So I just don't see any way. And Alabama, they are your number 1 team in the country. And again, a reminder, join us Saturday or Sunday morning, noon Eastern time, right here. We will have those final rankings, see who will be in the playoff and where and when. Notre Dame, they remain at number 2 despite not playing this weekend. The teams around them didn't play either. So Clemson will be at number 3. They have just the one loss at Notre Dame without Trevor Lawrence. It was a very, very close game. So the remainder, Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Iowa State, none of those four teams played, or none of those three teams played. But so they're revealing number 6 now is Iowa State. Number 5 should be A&M, right? Yep. So I don't know who decides what rankings they reveal first, but uh, so Ohio State remains at number 4, but we have a new team in the top 6 for the first time all season. This is a great, great day, I guess, for. All right, so my thoughts are coming up on how these rankings went down. Better give you a minute, look at the rankings, compare them to what maybe you would have had here. Alrighty, analysis here on the top 6 teams in the country, starting with Iowa State being put into the top 6 for the first time in 2020. Iowa State, of course, the major win on their resume is Oklahoma. It was a Saturday night game. Much earlier in the season, I think it was one of the first few weeks. It was their second conference game, I believe. Not 100% on that one, but it was much earlier in the season. It was before the Big Ten started. And I think that was a great win for Iowa State. It was a program defining win and a very, very deserving spot that they have at the number 6 team in the country. The concerns with Iowa State are that loss week 1. Keep in mind this is a week 1 where they really struggled. They lost to a Louisiana Raging Cajuns team, which proved to be a pretty good team this year. Not a bad team at all. It's just a group of 5 opponent where in a playoff setting you can't lose to a group of 5 opponent. There has never been a team to go to the playoff that has lost to a group of 5 opponent. And it wasn't a close loss. It was a game where they were dominated. But we also do have to keep in mind that it was week 1. We have had a team go to the playoff with an early season loss before. Multiple teams have done it. And I don't think Iowa State will go as a 1, 2, or 3, but they still have an opportunity to get in as the 4th spot if the right things go their way. Other things in the top 10 to notice here. I don't think you can say much about the 1 through 5. Those things are pretty much the same as they were last week, except Bama increased their lead at number 1. The other 4 teams didn't play. We have Georgia moving up. I don't think Georgia should have moved up over Cincinnati. I don't care that Missouri is in the playoff. Kimmy's eye is a good team. They're not. Missouri's average, very average. I don't think a win over Missouri can be valued any better than a win over a team like Nebraska, Minnesota, or Michigan, Penn State. Missouri's average. I don't want to hear anything else. They're an SEC team and they're average. All right, let's get to chat here. What we have here And obviously, we have when you guys wanting the Sooners to be in the top 10. And I don't remember what they were last week. I think they were 11. And now they move up to 10. As we saw, Miami really suck. Miami didn't have what it took to get them to the next level. Alrighty. And then we have Roll Tide. I mean, can't say anything. Can't say that that's wrong with Roll Tide. They've been winning all year. They have been dominant, and you know they're going to play neutral site games, which you can, for what it's worth, uh, they're tougher than home games, certainly for Alabama. But all right, let's see. Missouri ranked 1 week. Now they're trash. Well, I don't know why they were ranked in the first place. It's just because there wasn't another team that they wanted to rank. They didn't want to rank a San Jose State team last week for some reason. But somehow San Jose State's ranked here in this week. They beat Nevada, which is a good team. But here we go. Is Florida still able to make the playoff? I would say you got to beat Bama, first of all, which I think they could. I mean, you can beat any team on any given day. But if they beat Bama, Bama would probably still be in. Florida would probably get ahead of A&M, despite the head-to-head, just because of that quality win. I'm just going to assume that the committee puts Florida ahead of Texas A&M just because no other team has beaten Bama. Then you would need either Notre Dame to beat Clemson, to move Clemson out, or you need Northwestern to beat Ohio State. And I really don't see Ohio State losing to Northwestern, especially with the success Ohio State has had in the Big Ten championships. And it's just like Alabama, where you played in the stadium so many times that it starts to become tradition and it starts to become second nature. That you know how to play in a Big Ten championship game, and I think Ohio State will be just fine there. They have fought so hard this season, and I mean, it may not show up on the scoreboard, but they fought to get these games to even happen prior to the season, and well, they're here now. All right, putting Florida and Georgia in the top 8 will give the commitment extra ammunition in case Alabama loses. I still can't see any scenario where Alabama misses the playoff. I think they're a lock. They're not a lock at a number 1 or number 2. I think Bama can fall as far as 3 if they lose to Florida. Maybe 4. I don't know. It doesn't really matter because at that point you're just in a jumble of who's even. I don't know who they even put number 1, but I don't think it really matters where how Alabama plays. But they're going to be a playoff team. Doesn't matter at this point. And I don't even think you needed to put Florida and Georgia so high in the rankings. Alabama has Texas A&M victory. They have a Florida victory, a Georgia victory. And in total, they have 10 SEC victories, 5 at home, 5 on the road, which is more than a lot of the teams around them. They haven't beaten Texas A&M would be the only team that could say anything close, but the head-to-head kicks in. When you're comparing it to Iowa State, they don't have 10 conference victories. And I think going forward in future seasons, it's always a question is, should you be rewarded for playing tougher competition? And the Big Ten and Pac-12 and Big 12 have always played 9 conference games, and the SEC, ACC have played 8. And now it's flipped. You got the SEC playing 10 conference games, ACC playing 10 plus 1, Big 12 playing their normal games, but they cut 2 non-conference games. And the Big Ten and Pac-12 really aren't playing anything. Now it seems that the Pac-12 has really been punished for not playing any games, but the Big Ten, I mean, they're sort of being punished, but it's like it's a slap on the wrist instead of a I don't know what kind of punishment you could give out, but when you're playing 10 games, you have a much bigger margin for error, or you have more opportunities to fail. You could slip up and fail. All right. So I want to remind you, tune in. We will have the college football playoff selection show Saturday, starting at Sunday at noon Eastern time, right here. We'll be streaming it live. What teams will be in, what teams will be out, who's close. Well, we'll just know the teams that are in for sure. Usually they do the top 4 and maybe a 5 and a 6, but we'll have those playoff matchups. And then we heard the story that potentially there's a rumor that some people want the ACC and SEC specifically want the Rose Bowl to be taken out of Pasadena because they don't want to play a playoff semifinal in front of nobody. And also, there's a California law or something. You can't even have family there in Pasadena, which would be a very big obstacle for these teams in the SEC who have had fans from day one. And I think we're going to see a pushback from a team like Ohio State that would like to play at the Rose Bowl, who traditionally the Big Ten has been a Rose Bowl conference, but this year obviously it's a playoff semifinal, so it's just really going to be that 2-3 matchup because all the teams in contention for the 1 would want to play out at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. All right. So when you look at these playoff rankings, the teams that in my belief, can possibly get into the playoff would be Bama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Iowa State, and Florida. Texas A&M, I think they're out. I just don't see any way that a team not playing in a conference championship weekend, I think they'll value. I mean Texas A&M, I guess, if Ohio State loses and Notre Dame wins. I don't know. Would they put a Texas A&M team in? Possible. I don't know. I take back everything I've said. We got a big weekend coming up. Again this weekend, Pac-12 championship Friday night live on Fox. USC at 13. There's no way they get in. An Oregon win maybe puts them up 5-6 spots. They'll get into the top 10 with the conference championship, possibly ahead of the loser of the Big 12 championship. But I think they'll be right behind a Florida and a Georgia. And I think Florida should stay at 7, even if they lose to an Alabama team in the SEC championship. Now we look at what's I trying to say here is that uh, oh yeah, we got Big 12 and Big 10 championship are noon Eastern Saturday. ACC championship is 4 Eastern on Saturday, and then the SEC championship is 8 Eastern Saturday night. The TV for these games, you find the SEC championship. SEC will be on CBS 8 Eastern Saturday night. ACC championship, Clemson Notre Dame. That'll be 4 Eastern Saturday ABC. Big 12 championship, noon Eastern time, ABC. And the Big 10 championship, noon Eastern time, live on Fox. Personally, I'm going to be watching the Pac-12. I'll watch some of the Pac-12 championship Friday night. Probably won't watch all of it. Then I'll go Saturday and watch the Big 10 championship. I'll watch the ACC championship. And I'll watch some of the SEC championship until presumably it'll get to a blowout. Potentially. I'm not going to say it's definitive. I won't say Florida's going to get routed. Now I'll see if I can get a second screen and watch the Big 12 championship as well, but no guarantees on that one either. But I guess we should wrap it up here, and we will have. Make sure you guys listen to our podcast. It's the JJ Sports Podcast. It's available on pretty much all the podcast platforms that are available, and you can listen, subscribe, and I hope y'all do that. And again, right here on the YouTube channel, you can watch our college football playoff selection show Saturday, coming at noon Eastern time. Or what I got up? What did I have in there? Sunday at noon Eastern time, we'll have our selection show. We'll cover it like we have in the past. I mean, not on this channel, but where we usually start off with my top 6, top whatever I want to do, and then we'll keep talking. I'll let the chat weigh in, and we'll go from there. They'll have those rankings live for you. All right. So yeah, join us Sunday noon Eastern time for our selection show, and of course, join us Saturday nights for college football tonight. And yeah, hope to see y'all next time. Until then, I'm Jared. Have a good night.